Hey there gamers, welcome back to the Board Game Co channel, and this is a preview of Sol 43. Hey there gamers, welcome back to the Board Game Co channel. I'm Professor Meg, and this is a preview of Mars Expedition Sol 43. This is a preview by Queencell Games. Thank you very much for sponsoring this video. And as I note, this is a prototype copy, so everything you see is subject to change. You can follow their campaign with the link down below to see everything that they have planned for the game, but this campaign is now currently live. With this game, you're going to be playing a lot of puzzles. They are very unique, where you are going through different sols, which are days that take place on Mars. You are going around these different areas of Mars, trying to complete different objectives with your different drones, basically trying to make Mars ready for you to come in and inhabit the planet. As you can see from this deck over here, starting with Sol 1, there are 43 puzzles for players to do. Now, I'll go over the general mechanics that will last for all of these, starting when the mechanic is introduced in the game, but there are 43 of these for you to be able to play with, and we currently have a Sol 6 set up. Now, I'm going to leave the rest a puzzle for you, because I don't want you to see too much that could be in here, because they are all unique puzzles for you to be going through with 43 different unique challenges, and then you'll finish the entire game. Now, each game will take place on this board. That will always happen, and you will always have your drone figure, which you can see here. Now, your drones will be moving around the board. It will either be the 1 or a 2-player mode. I'm going to explain the solo mode first, and then I'll explain what's added for a 2-player game. But you'll always have your drone, the player board, and you'll always have this base which you're attempting to return to. You don't always start on the base spot, but you will always be returning to this space. Those are the things that are always present in the game. Now, on top of that, there are different terrains, such as rocks and mountains, which will change how you're able to move. The rocks you are able to move over but not land on, and the mountains you are not able to move over or land on because they are just too big. Now here we have the camera icon because that is an objective that we are trying to do. There are also minerals that you can try to take. For each of those, you would enter movement over the spot and pick up the token. But this little smushy cylinder is aerographene. I believe this is a real thing. It's supposed to be something that's like air, but you're able to move it and see it. I think there's science behind this entire game, but I am not a scientist. I am a board game player. So there is this aerographene, which you will also be pushing around the board with your drone, where it acts a little uniquely. That you, once you move into a space where the aerographene is, you will then push it to a different spot, and you are attempting to move it into your base area. Now, I'll go over how your drones move because I went over a lot of the different things that will be happening. I'll talk about tornadoes once I go over movement because then I think everything will make sense. So, in this scenario for Sol 6, what we would be trying to do is that our drone always moves in an S shape. Now, it can be inverted, so it's an S or a Z. You could move like this, or you could move like this, but that is the way that your drone is able to move. In this scenario, in the least amount of spaces possible, we would want to come and take a picture. So let's say, for example, if we wanted to move up to here, we're also able to move this way. We're able to move up to here. And then we're able to move this way and land on the photograph token. So you can see that's how you would move to land on this token. And then there may be a faster way back, but because I did that, I'm sure I could do exactly the way back, and that would take me that number of turns to be able to get back to my base camp. So that's a pretty simple example because as it is Sol 6, it is pretty early on in the game, but that's an example of how you will be moving around the board trying to complete different objectives. Now there are these tornadoes, they're called dust devils on Mars, and these will also be placed on specific places depending on the sol that you are encountering, and you will use that to place the tornado on the board. Now the tornado affects not only its own space, but all of the spaces that are around it, so it affects 9 spaces in total. What it does is that it adds an extra movement to how your drone normally moves. So for example, if my drone was here, let's say my drone was here, I could go 1, 2, 3, and then it would force me to move an additional 1 this way. Now you aren't able to take that move if it would end you off of the board or on top of a mountain or somewhere you're not able to end your movement. But this is also something that you can use to move 5 spaces instead of 4 to complete these different objectives in a different way. Now the tornadoes can also be moving, so there are these beacons that you can add That, for example, if this tornado was in this area, it might be moving between these particular tiles, and so you would use this to track so that you know where the tornado will be and the different areas it will move to. It will move along the track until it hits an end, and then start going back the other way. So all of these elements will be thrown at you at higher and higher complexities, and the things like the mountains and the rocks will really affect where you're able to fly, and especially where you're able to land, as you cannot land on either, and the puzzles will become more and more complex. Now, you can see to the left of this board, I have something that starts with Soul 30. So there are quite a few boards here, and they start with Soul 30. Starting on the 30th day, and you go to Soul 43, you will have these anomalies as well that you will be encountering. So your anomalies will start looking like this, which are a 1x1 tile, and then you'll have a 2x2 tile, eventually having 2 in play, and then a 3x3 tile. So you'll be placing these throughout the board, and I'll show the example with the 1x1 tile, but if there was an anomaly here, players could move into it from either direction. Now, if you move into it from the eastward direction, when you enter the anomaly, you'll take this smaller token for yourself and enter from the eastward area. After that, movement is the same, and even though this is a spiral, just stay inside of the different columns that are in the spiral, and you'll be able to know how to move. Now you would move 1, 2, 3, and that's a great example because there's a number 4 in this spot. Now for the number that's in the spot, you will move in toward the center, and I would go 1, 2, 3, and be sucked into the black hole. I would lose this soul, and I would have to start over. But if I started here instead and went 1, 2, 3, that would land me on an empty spot where I'm able to not have to move at all. Now there are cases where the numbers may be good and you want to be pulled in a little bit where there are lower numbers and you're not exactly hitting the center, but you might have to go that way to be able to get out. You will maneuver around these anomalies, work on getting yourself out, and when you do come out, you'll come out in the direction that you were facing. So where we entered on the east, if we exited to the west, you could exit here, and then your drone would exit over on this area. Now, when you are entering the anomalies, you can use any number of movement to enter. For example, if I started my turn here, I could go just 1, and then I would be able to enter the anomaly. However, when exiting the anomaly, you have to land on the exit space to be able to exit in that direction. Now, that is a 1x1 anomaly, which you can see is like this, but these will also scale up in complexity. So a 2x2 anomaly will look something like this, and your 3x3 anomalies, hold on, they're going to look something like this. Now, please keep in mind this is a prototype, so they are still working out just how small the spaces are and how easy it is for players to be able to play the game because accessibility is important, but it is a very complex puzzle where you will be moving around these anomalies with your different movement patterns and be trying to get yourself out of the different situations. Now, in a 2-player game, there will be a white drone used as well, and the white drone will also start at the base. They have the same objectives as their opponent, except they're trying to do it as fast as possible compared to their opponent and beat it before them, as opposed to doing it in as few as turns as possible. Now, there are also these cards that players will use. This is only used in a 2-player game, but there are different cards that you are able to play that will have different actions to affect the other player. On top of that, there will be a wind die, which changes where your drone is at the beginning of every turn. You will roll this wind cube, which is what they call it in the game, and with this we rolled south, so your drones would be moved south. Mars Expedition Soul 43 is a complex puzzle game where I honestly think a lot of players will prefer this solo. It is a great puzzle where you are using almost chess-like mechanics to maneuver around this board with a great Mars theme, where there is a lot that you can actually learn about Mars within the game. Again, as I said, I think all of the minerals and everything referenced is real. It seems extremely real to me, but I did not vet this or look it up, so I suppose it could be fiction, but I believe we are completely learning about Mars here. And yeah, I think that it is a great solo puzzle for you to go through this and then maybe share with a friend. But if you are someone that is very competitive and you think this might be great for another friend that you usually play 2-player games with, it is a strategy game where there is a lot of complexity and there may be a lot of head-to-head moments. As a reminder, everything that will come with the game is this player board, all of the tiles that you'll need for the different objectives, which will gain more and more complexity with different mountains and rocks blocking your different paths. You'll have your aerographene, which you'll be pushing around the board, and your different tornadoes, which will boost your movement. You also have the 43 souls that you will be going through, which are the 43 days of Mars. And there is a 2-player version, which we'll be using this wind cube to be able to move their different drones around to kind of change up what the players are able to do and mess with their perfect plans for all intents. You also have your anomaly different tiles here and your anomaly sheets for when you hit Soul 30, which will be a more complex puzzle for players to enjoy. Thank you to Queen Cell Games for sponsoring this video. I'm Professor Meg, and thank you all for watching the Board Game Code channel. I'll see you next time. Bye!